Hello friends, I am Parth Shah. Today I am going to walk through few tips and tricks for the CKAD exam. So basically I completed my CKAD exam on 15th June 2021 and it was my second trial. So basically I could not clear my exam on the first trial. I scored 63%, or almost 3% less than the passing percentage. The passing percentage is 66%. So I made some silly mistakes. Because of that I need to pay the penalty, and again I prepare for one more week. I understand all the mistakes which I did, and I work on uh, the the shortcuts, right, to complete my exam much faster. So I just want to walk through all these shortcuts, tips and tricks which I learned during my CCAT journey, which will help you to crack the exam much faster. Because knowledge is not only the important thing, you need speed and accuracy to complete all the 19 questions within 2 hours of time span. So I have prepared a PPT. We will go through one by one each point. I'll try to cover few points in a practical manner as much as possible. I'll try to keep the video as short as possible also, so you will not get bored. So now, let's start with our today's agenda, right? So the first point is you in CKAD exam there will be 4 cluster, right? So if you see, right, this is a CKAD documentation. They have clearly mentioned there are 4 clusters: KA test, TKA test, and K test. So you need to switch to the correct cluster before you start solving your exam questions, right? So and for CKAD they will give the command to switch to the correct cluster. Okay, so the command will be like it's simple command, right? They will obviously give you its key config set, see, cluster like nk8s, right? So you are switched to that particular nk8s cluster. So make sure you switch to the correct cluster before you start attempting your questions. I made this mistake in my first exam, so I might have solved a few questions correctly, but on the incorrect cluster. So make sure you are switching it to correct cluster before you are attempting the question. The second thing, while working on Kubernetes, we obviously work on the YAML files, right? And there are 2 ways to edit the YAML files in Linux environment. One is Vim editor, second is Nano editor. So I use Vim editor. Now to use Vim, right, you need to know few shortcuts, otherwise it will take so much of time, right? So to give you some simple example, right, I have created a file called one YAML file, 3pd.yaml. If I go, right, currently my Vim shortcuts are enabled, so I'll just delete them. VRC, and just go and delete all the shortcuts, 5dd, escape, and shift z. Okay, now if you see now vimrc, so this vimrc is the file where you can create it's a kind of configuration file, which vim editor will read, right? So currently by default it will be blank in a CKAD exam, right? So if I want to edit anything, how painful it is, I'll show you. So if I go to, there is no line number. Now if you want to edit this particular file, it will go to here. By mistake, if you press tab and then you write something, right, then it will result into invalid error. So suppose if I give you example, I'll run a command called k delete -f3pd. So I'm trying to delete a particular object which is created from this particular YAML file. So it is giving me particular error, right, that there is a tab character found that violates the indentation. So basically there was a tab character recognized. So I don't want such kind of error, and I don't want to waste my time, right? So instead of that, I can go to Vim editor. I can write a shortcut. I just configure my Vim editor with some specific command, auto command, file type YAML, set local, et, ts equal to 2, sts equal to 0, sw equal to 2, number, auto indentation, syntax, I want to keep it on, and to set cursor line, I want to set cursor column. I hope everything I have typed it correctly. It looks like, yeah. So now if you see, right, I press shift ZZ to save and exit. So now if I edit the same file vi3pd, right, so this was my file, I'll just delete the tab character first, and then I'll re-edit the file. Now I press the tab character, right? So now first you observe that when I just press enter, it directly goes below the run, right? It doesn't go to the first statement, right? So I don't have to go for indentation. The smart indentation is enabled. Second, I press the tab character and I escape it. I escape and close the file. So I save the changes. Changes are saved, and if I try to run the same command now, it should work. 3pd.yaml. So it delete the particular node or pod object, right? So if I say key get pods, there is no pods. Okay, it is getting terminated. Okay, let it get terminated. Okay, there is no pod. Now I can create the same object again from the same file using the create command. So you see my YAML file is correct. Second, so basically, even though I press tab character, it converts my tab character to uh, the spaces. So it says it is stop my tab character, convert my tab character to two spaces. That is meant by TS, and then I enable the cursor line and cursor column. So now when you enable cursor line and cursor column, right, if you notice the difference, the column, right, the column is at particular, you can see the cursor x and y axis for that particular attribute, right? So it is very easy when you're working on pod affinity or network policy like topics. There are so many sub attributes or child attributes, so the attribute should be inline correctly, otherwise you might end up in some errors, and it will take some lot of time to resolve those errors, right? So that cursor column and cursor width is very important. So I'll just clear my terminal. Now coming back, so first of second point is enable the vmarc command with all the possible shortcuts. And when you are editing the any YAML file, you should know all the shortcuts to deal with it. Otherwise, it will take so much of time. The next point is you should use the kubectl command, right, as a shortcut. So when I mean, what does that mean? So I just use, I will not, I can use a command like kubectl get pods, right? That is a normal way, normal convention. But that will, every time to type all these things, it will take so much of time. So what I can say is I can create an alias of it. Sorry, kubectl. Okay. So instead of kubectl, I can write k. It will still work. Then I can further create more alias from this, like kgp equal to key get pods and then space. So I just type kgp, it will run the kubectl get pods command. I can again create one more command like, so before I start my exam, CKAD exam, I spend 2 minutes to configure all these commands. So that will help you to run the commands faster. So kgd is kubectl get deployment. I don't have any deployment, so there is no, it will give as no resource found. Another two command which I generally prefer is kcf. It's kube create hyphen f. So I can create any object and I can delete any object. So I just create all these aliases, so it makes my life very easy during my delete. Okay, sorry. So yeah. So if I have vim any YAML file, right? Suppose I want to create a pod. So uh, first of all, I can delete the existing pod, right? So I can use kdf3pd.yaml. So it will delete the pod, and then I can see, I can run the kgp command, kgp, and it's getting terminated. Okay, I rerun it, I clear the command kgp, it's gone. Now I can use kcf command and 3 space, and now it will create my pod. So basically it will be very faster for you to create or delete any object. The next point is you have to use imperative commands as much as possible, right? Apart from vim editor and aliases, you have to use imperative commands. So for example, if you want to create a particular uh, pod, right, within a certain namespace with a image and some command, you don't have to create a YAML and copy paste the YAML. You just write the imperative command krun. My pod name is suppose ng4, image is nginx, port is et, and I want output as YAML, and I want some basic command to run by my container. So it will be bin sh my command, and my command is suppose sleep for 4000 seconds. Okay, every time when you're creating any object, always do -o YAML to get the YAML file out of it. And suppose if it's a question 4 and I'm creating a pod of it for question 4, so I should try to make it as a 4pd.yaml. So it will tell me that uh, if I go ls, right, so it will tell me that I create one pod for the fourth question. So this is my pod for my fourth question. So in future, if I want to edit it, I can simply go and edit it very quickly for that particular question, right? So currently I just create one particular pod, ng4 is created, right? So use all the shortcuts. If I want to create a deployment, I'll say k create deploy hyphen image is nginx replica is equal to 3 hyphen plot equal to 80 -o YAML. Suppose this is question number 12. So 12 deployment.yaml. Okay, exactly one name. So I forgot to give the name. So it's suppose dep ng is the name of the deployment. So if I say kgd kubectl get deployment, I'll get the deployment. It's creating object, if you see, right? So, and I'll get my YAML also. So in future, if I complete all the 20 questions, all the 19 question, and I want to just revisit one of the question again, I can simply go to that particular I want to edit that particular object for that question. Suppose question number 12, I want to see if my deployment file is correct or not. I can simply go and quickly scan my deployment file, whether the replicas or the name and images and all those things are correct, right? The pod number and images. So this is one more important thing, right? Use always shortcuts. So for shortcut, there is a link given by Kubernetes, right? So this is the link which I have already mentioned in my PPT also. So for these are the kubectl shortcuts. We should know all the shortcut before appearing for the exam. If you don't know this imperative command, it will take so much of your time. So for all the objects, we can create the basic template, not the in-depth, but the basic template, and we can get XML out of it by using -o YAML command, and then you can edit the YAML command, then delete the object and recreate the object, right? Which I did in this example, right? So suppose I want to edit my deployment name. So, and my deployment is already created. So what I'll do, I'll just go and say 12 dep.yaml. What is the metadata? Dep ng. Suppose I want to change the name to something else. So I'll just add it to dep ng12. Okay. And I'm just giving a simple example. So currently my deployment name is dep ng. So I'll just first delete it, kdf file name. Okay, that deployment is not found, so obviously it will not work, right? So what I need to do is just copy the 12 dep YAML to some 12 dep1.yaml and just copy it. I'll just rename 12 dep1.yaml, or I can, instead of doing this, I can just run kubectl delete deploy dep and g. That will also work, right? So if I say kgd, it is not gone. Now if I'll create kcf 12 dep.yaml, you can see the new deployment is created with the name dep ng12. So basically, if the YAML is present, you can edit the YAML and delete the object and recreate it. So it will work for you. Okay, and always focus on the weightage. So the next point is for multi-container pod, I have observed that they give 2 to 3 questions for multi-container pod, but the weightage is very less. So if the weightage is like 2 or 3, you can skip the question and then you can attempt it later. So while skipping the question, I'll insist you to use the notepad, where you can just mention that if this is question 2 and then dash, the weightage is 4. or if you skip the question 8 and the weightage is 6, like you can just note down all the question with the weightage, right? So once you complete all the 19 question, re you can revisit all the question, the missing questions or the skip question based on the weightage. So in this case, right, I will go for the question number 16 first because it has 6 weightage, then maybe question 8 and question 2. So always note down the question number and the weightage so you can easily quickly revise it. Always use so there is a Kubernetes provides a cheat sheet, right? So if you don't know, there is a cheat sheet provided by Kubernetes. I think I don't open it. Yeah, so the cheat sheet, it's very useful. You must go at least 2 to 3 times to learn all the valuable things, right? So they have given a lot of questions with solutions, and it will really help you because many of times they give the simple questions uh, directly asked from this, right? So if you have go through this cheat sheet multiple times, you know the answer where it is, right? So you just need to copy paste it, or you just need to do a minor tweak into this particular query. Okay. And one of the issue which I faced during my first attempt was, uh, once I completed 10 question, when I go to 11th question, I need to execute the pod and I need to run some command. So I use the execute command, k execute pod, and then somehow it goes to infinite mode. So I cannot so there is an option on the top right to reset the terminal. I did that. It doesn't work. Then I talked to Proctor. He stopped the timer, right? So first of all, you have to talk to Proctor. You have to ping Proctor and ask him to stop the timer as you are facing the issue. Then he asked me multiple things like reload the browser, close the Chrome browser, and start it again, but nothing works. So he asked me to download the Vivaldi browser. There is a browser called Vivaldi. Even I heard it for first time, which you should install it in your computer or laptop, whatever you are going to, which you are using during your exam, right? So it's a backup browser. They might ask you if the Chrome doesn't work. So by default, they will prefer Chrome, but if Chrome doesn't work, they might you to switch to Vivaldi browser in case of any issue. And obviously, you need to ask Proctor to stop the timer. So because if you don't do that, it will just waste your 2 3 minutes, which is very valuable. And the last point I want to cover is when you're referring any documentation, right? So you might find multiple things. So suppose I'm referring a documentation, right, and I want to go with a topic called persistent volumes. So I'll go to Kubernetes document and say PV, right? And in PV, I'll get multiple links. So out of this, always refer a link which has a task, because all the practical questions are in this particular link only, which is mentioned with a task, right? So task is they give all the sort of different scenarios, right? So yes, so for example, in when I give exam, they ask me to create index.html for persistent volume question on a different node. So this is the same example. You are switching to different node, okay, and then you are creating a command using the sudo command. You are creating a file at particular location. So one more thing, if they might ask you to switch to the command also. So you need to be, you should know how to switch to a particular command, particular node. So if I just show you, if there are like multiple nodes, right? Suppose there are three slave node and one master node. I want to switch to particular node. So I say SSH node 01. Okay, and then I can like make dir suppose index. So I have created one index directory, and you can create a file also under this directory. And once you do that, just say exit and come back to your main control plane node, right? And then you can run all the commands. So don't run forget to run this command exit, otherwise you will creating all the objects into node 0, which is not expected. You should come back to your original node, which is a master node. So if I just see all the KGP also works, yeah. So basically use all these shortcuts and go through the Kubernetes documentation. And for Kubernetes, if you ask me who is the best tutor, I would say Momshar. Momshar is one of the best tutor, which I personally feel, and I go through all the mock exam and all the courses by Momshar. So, and there are lot many good tutors, so it's up to you. Okay. And I have created the same blog for all these tips and tricks with all the commands. So you can refer this blog on the medium.com. So that's it for today. Thank you and happy learning. Best of luck for your exam. I know you will crack it in your first go. Thank you very much. Bye.